and welcome back. We're getting ready to go into our third game of the series as Heretics were able to pull out the win in that second game. So we've now equalized the scores and we got potentially 3 more games to go. I hope 3 more.
I would hope so too, but we have to deal with a certain elephant in the room. It's not really an elephant, it's a man with a hammer in the mid lane. Because we've been trying to work through this break and figure out what the secret is to both of these drafts. I think we found out the secret to draft 3. Bon Joyce. Don't know what you make of that.
Who's Joyce? Does he?
I don't know. That's the problem with game 1 and 2. We didn't figure out the actual person to ban.
Yeah, we got to figure it out. I mean, hopefully the coaches have. Honestly, memes aside, Jace has been a bit of a problem. Just a little bit of a problem in these games. So I'm curious what that'll look like if they do take the Jace away. What gets left open in response? I believe it's go blue side in this game. Yep. So you know, I'm curious what the bans are going to look like and what the response to this will be. Yeah,
the onus is realistically just on Heretics to ban it away and then just kind of grit their teeth. And if something goes through that they're going to have to just deal with, I think it's better to just test the waters whilst it's still 1-1 as opposed to potentially letting it go through again. Jace has another banger game and then you're down 2-1 in the series.
They tried that in game 1 with the cannon though, which is one of my issues with this. They're just kind of saying, okay, you've tried this with top lane. Can you try this with mid lane now? What the heck's going to happen with this? You only have so many priority bans. We're going to see something fall through. First ban, that Varus from Geo on that blue side, that's something that we've seen banned away the entire series so far. Feels like that Varus makes the bot lane more interactive, which is typically something that both these teams have not wanted. They want the interaction to happen elsewhere on the map.
Yeah, they do not want there to be any proactive movement at all from the bottom side. They just want it to all be scaling. Simple as that. There's the Malphite, so eyeing up.
Oh, they did it!
They did
it! They bombed Jace!
Bon Joyce!
Alright, so there's the Joyce ban. Bon, sorry.
Thank you, get it right.
Thank you.
Pick some bonds.
I am.
The name's Bon. Jace Bon.
Oh my god. Oh, get me out. Alright, so there's Zarya. Vi's up, Rakan's up, Sejuani's up. Those are the 3 champions on the radar. When you have a lot of these kind of target focuses for Heretics, I imagine they probably look towards...
Well, Vi's been the big thing, right? But with Jace off the table, maybe you feel like the Vi is okay letting through, because Jace is very susceptible to that kind of combo. We still have Lissandra up, which can be played against that, and that's it. The Vi is let through. Maybe they think, without Lissandra being banned first round, you can give up a Vi first pick, maybe use that to play against it.
And I think the big thing about this is this also makes Heretics now a little bit more scared to pick up the Zeri, because the Vi is picked up into that. So in a way, that now hands this over to Team Geo.
Next level for this. You give over the Zeri, you pick up the Silas, steal the Vi ult, you go onto the Zeri. That has been an answer to that Vi. We haven't seen it as much, but that's been one of the ways to deal with it.
So I'm expecting the Wukong to come alongside this Jinx. We'll see exactly whether your thesis ends up being correct. Ooh. Actually, okay, they're going to go towards the Maokai. So looking a little bit more towards team fighting again, bluerzor favoring this one just a little bit more over the other picks.
Okay, now I think the angle is now, you're playing at such a long range that the Vi, if they find an angle, are going to be very far away from their team and the Maokai snarling up the rest of your team. I think that's typically what you're looking for here. That's been one of the other issues with the Vi, particularly if you pick something actually like the Ahri would have been really good for this, because if the Vi then chooses to go onto someone that can dash and flash backwards, they're out of position. Now they have the priority mid-jungle combo from Team Geo, and they don't have that one of the more typical answers to the Vi in the back pocket.
Yeah. Now this also makes me wonder what exactly Heretics are going to want to prioritize on their 3, because this should just be Zeri. Kennen is obviously up.
I think you go Silas.
You could obviously go Silas for the...
Do it.
If you go LeBlanc, then Merchant value is pretty high. It's kind of the same thing also for Lissandra. It's just about what exactly you want out of the mid lane pool and how you're going to utilize the tools. I think it's fine. Either option. Okay. Either option. I think when you've got the Jinx, it makes more sense to go towards the Lissandra because it's a little more AoE setup and it's about the team fighting. If you go to LeBlanc, it's a little bit more about the actual snowballing in the early game.
Yeah, so now the risk that you've got here is that Lissandra can just get cleansed away from by the Zeri, and often you're going to be alone on your dive in. The matchup against the Ahri is less good than it was last year, ever since we've seen more Spellbook be picked up as well. We've typically seen the Ahri still get early prior and not be as easy to shut down. You do have double resets now. You got the Frozen Thralls from Lissandra, and you have Get Excited from Jinx, so double passive resets at that point. This game now is going to be very, very much about who is dying first as the first pick, even with Dusty's first 3 picks locked in.
Yep. First kill is going to be very crucial. Thresh taken off the board just for the safety net. Wouldn't be surprised to see like Nautilus plus Leona. Just remove away as many engage options as you can on both sides. Maybe even a Tom Kench could be a really good call out for Go, just because that's one of the only other things that can really stop a Vi from vying. And I think on this next set of rotations here for Team Geo, Kennen is likely to be picked up for some ban. And the Tahm Kench would certainly curb the ability of that champion. So Heretics make a good read in removing that Kennen away, and I expect for Team Geo probably another support ban. And I hope for their sake it's the Tahm Kench.
It's
That
the
support,
Jax.
incredible. What a support ban.
What a support ban.
I actually really like the Tahm Kench, but I also feel like, man, I just feel like Marlon is shined on things that can start fights, that can kind of set up, and he is a roamer. Tahm Kench isn't an awful roamer, but I feel like, you know, obviously the Fresh, the Rakans, all those things have really suited his playstyle.
I think it's more like Tahm Kench doesn't necessarily have as defined a playmaking kit as champions like Thresh and Lawless and Leona. It can still make plays, and it's also a champion with a very, very high base number, so it can still be a big body. Olaf into Lulu straight away, so Team Geo very happy to potentially just slam the top side. Oh! Okay, I have to talk about this. I have to talk about this. Ibo, I love you. There are so many champions which haven't been explored at dealing with the Olaf. Now, one of the few that have come out, and if memory serves me right, it was Adam that did this in the LEC.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was him into this Olaf, but generally speaking, as Olaf, what do you love to do, guys? You love to go in, right? And Olaf, in doing that, typically gets quite low. Now, the problem is, Garen R executes from such a stupidly high threshold that you don't really get to play the game. So I love this, you know, from a nuanced perspective inside the lane, but also in the team fights. If Team Geo ever dive forward, you're looking at like a 1k like true damage execute on any target he presses.
I mean, the big thing that's completely right with that as well is, when you're playing Olaf, you want to be low health.
Yes.
Because that's where you shine.
Like,
you can't use half your kit. Because he just goes, no, sword beats axe.
So, like, I was playing a lot of top lane a couple of weeks ago. Not, you know, traditional caster make cast about solo queue games that they've played. But I was spamming a lot of Olaf, and I was like, damn, this champion is like really broken. What even counters it? Someone picked Garen into me, and I had never had a more miserable experience in my life.
Back to jungle with you.
Back to jungle with me. So I anticipate that Ibo is literally just going to like man mark Ragner to never let him Ragnarok off in the back line.
One thing that's really important about this too is, particularly when you see the Vi Ahri and you have an Olaf there as well, your last pick also has to be undiveable on that top side, really.
Yeah.
You don't have any real ability to dive on that bot side as easily. I mean, Zeri Lulu can take control of that lane, but really this top side needs to be hard to isolate, hard to shut down under tower, and someone like Garen can always take someone with him.
I don't want to go on and on about top lane, but I do want to ask one last thing. What is the build? Because Garen is a very flexible champion in his builds. Is it like this crit build Garen, or is it more the cleaver?
Greaves into Stride Breaker into more Reminder is not.
Okay.
Well, actually, I guess the
think
second
Gore
man
Drinker
could
could
also
be pretty good here as
the
well.
The Gore Drinker can be fine here as well. I think Stride Breaker typically is what gets picked up because he doesn't necessarily care about the heal of the Gore Drinker. It can be nice for sure. Also, I think it's actually Black Cleaver second now since they changed more Reminder.
There are a lot of items which are particularly good on this. We've also seen Deadman's Plate be meta on Garen for a very long time. Also, Rapid Fire Cannon. Because one of the biggest things that you can do with this is get that silence with your Q. You run at someone, you silence them, and I don't care if you are Zeri like zipping around at the speed of light. If you're silenced, you don't get to cast your Q as Zeri. Because if you get that Q onto him, actually very important. So if that item gets built up, watch for that interaction in fights.
That caused me physical pain. That's actual physical pain.
That's actually so funny. I can just imagine because Garen does get, I think it's 50 extra range on the Q.
Yeah, any auto attack.
It's one of those weird interactions. It's the same with Udyr Bear Slap with Rapid Fire Cannon. He can jump walls, technically.
Now,
well, it's not Bear Slap.
You can hit someone over walls
back in the day,
sometimes.
So not to go on about Garen, but it's just a very fun pick that we don't get to see very often. What I would like to say is, with the Phase Rush and basically the Ignite, he's very, very hard to kill. And generally, if you're Ragnar, this is maybe the only window where you can be like, okay, I'm Olaf, I will still win level 1. But generally... oh my god.
I wish you could see what we could see.
You know, I'll describe it for you guys because there's not a lot going on in the early game. The junglers are both on their red sides and they're full clearing. Obviously, you guys don't get to see it, but we've got a teleprompter in front of us. So, you know, we get news, updates, all that good stuff. There is a Garen with... well, it's the face of the Keck W guy laughing, and there's a Garen hair on it.
Yep.
It's fantastic. It's a great image. That's fantastic. Anyway, looking back towards the game, junglers have both cleared their full red side, and I'm wondering, you know, where the first move will actually be from both sides, right? Because if you're bluerzor, you probably want to just try and pinch on the mid lane. I think you've got a whole bunch of CC, or just generally being a bit of a man marker of like 1-to-1 to ensure that Lyncas never gets any good move onto any of the lanes proactively.
Okay, so other stuff to kind of check in with this as well. Of course, mid jungle's very interactive. We see them both here.
Oh, Marlon actually jumps in onto Jezu. The zap is going to connect to get a bunch of damage off, but now Marlon losing a fair amount of HP. Ghost has been used there by Flakked as he is trying to just get away Kamilius. Throwing as much glitter at him as possible, and now Heretics, they're lower health.
Yeah, this is kind of the risk-reward of something like a Time Kench. Once you're into a fight, you don't get out, but your W does do a fair amount of damage alongside your Tongue Lash. They're trying to dive Ibo. Now, he doesn't have a huge amount of HP. He has Ignite, though. This is still dangerous.
Flash, Phase Rush, W. It's doable for sure. Let's see how the execution falls through. That's a teleport. There was also 3 members here for Team Geo, so that would have been quite difficult, but...
Can we just have a look at mid wave?
Yeah.
Because that's
Zwyroo.
a teleport away from that lane. What's happening with Zwyroo after he's done that? We see this right now. Looks like it's actually just going to be a soft push in here. So actually Zwyroo not losing a huge amount for this.
Or actually maybe, I think just the RNG might hurt him on the way back out. Because Toucouille is here, he can technically hold it in a freeze, and the minions from the Heretic side will reach the minion wave first. Semantics I know, but it will be a slow push technically back in to Toucouille. Nah, what's up?
Oh, just Flakked getting Kamilius there. He wasn't allowed to reset. He was trying to reset.
It's annoying.
Did you? You just missed it. Don't worry. It's all right. Don't worry, mate.
I didn't look at the screen. Either way.
It's only what you got to do.
No, I know. It's such an irritating part of this wonderful job I have. Right?
I just want to talk. I don't want to watch.
Exactly. Isn't this just like the cast the ego thing? Everyone just hears so that everyone can just hear our voices on the video game.
Oh, my friend, you're going to be humbled.
Okay, let's just get ourselves back on track very slightly at this point.
Yep.
Do have lower health Olaf, starting to take some pretty hard trades here, but Ibo gonna have another jungler joining his lane.
Oh, hello.
bluerzor is here to cover that.
It's 2 junglers on each side, but Ibo's right in front.
Oh, he's in danger. He's got the flash out. He's trying to get away with the speed from the Q. Is able to do so. That is now a flashless, and he is also a teleportless Garen, so he needs to catch this wave. Lucky he's Garen, does have a bit of passive healing. Hold on. There's Jezu's flash. He's out.
Yeah, so that's one of the things about this Garen pick. When you bring the Ignite, much like other very lane-dominant picks where you do have the Ignite on board, wave management is super important. And Olaf, for what it's worth, yes, this counter pick starts to suck at level 6. Before then, he still takes pretty grand control of the lane, which is why bluerzor is hanging around for so long, because he knows that Ibo can get dove at any time. If he doesn't hit 6 before Ragner, life can get quite difficult, but there's another first move from Toucouille, and it's a 2v3 up here on the top side.
No mana on Olaf, no ult on Toucouille, and they also don't have an Ignite to bring it back.
Dodge out on the charm immediately. Ibo gets the silence off. He's got the Ignite ticking. No, he doesn't. He didn't even get to use it. Tower juggled beautifully. And that is honestly just a flawless dive.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be the kill over the Ahri, who has picked up the Dark Seal first. All of this top side of the map, very, very flippy. We already talked about this top lane really going towards the Garen, a fairly good point. But everyone on this map, remember, we have a lot of resets to play with in this game. Any gold league going to start to stick out.
And the main thing here is when we see Zwyroo play things like this Lysandra, he typically plays it to control the lane, keep you shoved, and stop you from roaming. This is now twice where we've seen Toucouille go for roams. Zwyroo trying, almost slightly on a desperation to make this happen on the other side. They do get the lockdown onto the Lulu. He's ignited, he's low, he's down. They are able to answer out for 1-for-1, and it may just become a little bit more. Jezu may go low though, as Flakked's got the damage. He's going to finish him up, and he gets out. Zwyroo's going to execute. Is he going to get away? Nope. That's a kill over to Lyncas.
It's just so messy from Heretics. I think they actually misjudged when Jezu's cleanse was up, so they decided to go towards Kamilius in an attempt to just actually burst him 100-0. In the replay, you'll see the cleanse, if it's not bugged, it's actually just barely coming off cooldown, so they go, all right, let's kill Kamilius. Actually, even in saying that, Marlon and Flakked looked pretty intent on going on Jezu. Just straight up miscommunication potentially, and it starts to get messy after they've killed the Lulu.
I think it's mixed because you see the lower level on that Lulu. I think maybe they're saying level 3, lower base stats, a lot of base damages to bring to bear, and you can get the double resets. And we see that actually getting that second kill over to Flakked. So all things kind of turning out equal in terms of those kills, but gold goes over to the Jinx. We saw what the flat cannon could do in late game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was super, super well played. Again, just a nice little juggle there on that dive. Zwyroo, he's not going to take that. For a minute, I was like, you haven't got ult, mate. Nope. Don't go for it.
Don't do it yet. Not yet. So one thing that hasn't actually gone on, despite it being up for 2.5 minutes, is actually the Dragon. The tension down here from junglers hasn't resulted in that, but is starting to become a little bit of a party down here. 3 as a crowd, as they're saying.
Yeah.
It's about 6 people down here. bluerzor is going to find
That's
us
like
in the
2 crowds.
It's 2 whole crowds. These saplings will slow down Toucouille a little bit, but it's not really going to stop it from advancing in. Wave priority, however, on the bottom side is a bit 50-50. The issue is with the numbers disadvantage that Heretics find themselves in. If they rotate up, they'll get pinched on, so I think they just have to give this up. Zwyroo doesn't have ultimate. They could just try and look for a 50-50
It's going to be close, though. 10 seconds until the center roll.
Flakked's not going to be able to join. He just got slowed on the way in.
Wow,
They're going to jump straight in onto that backline, lock them all down in place. Lyncas is low HP, but he's able to find a kill in response. Zwyroo, he's got the lockdown. He's got the cloak. The dragon is just coming up for him there. And lots of Heretics, they're able to take this dragon. It will get a partial reset off, but no one's going to steal it.
Very close run stuff. Again, whenever these mid-jungles come into play, very tight damage timings. You don't even have something like a spellbook from Toucouille to get himself a cleanse. Very nearly goes down to, as Jamada called out, the dragon aggro in that fight. Almost ulted in front of it. Ibo gets to push in towards that top side. Much needed. He's been suffering from early pressure so far. Ragner controlling this lane so far. Yeah,
Ragner controlling the lane so far. Has to be expected. bluerzor goes in and actually thought a little bit haphazardly. I thought the thought would be to just try and win the Dragon Smite. To be honest with you, they don't quite have the 100-0 burst damage on Lyncas, but he does eventually die. Great ultimate from Zwyroo just to keep Toucouille in place as long as he possibly could for the passive to proc. Doesn't quite work out to get him that additional kill, but it does secure them the Dragon. And off the back of the resets, as Heretics look to sort of dot their I's and cross their T's with the wave management, it's given Lyncas enough time to actually slip back up to the top side and start this one up. The numbers advantage, and Kamilius also roaming first to the play.
Well, they're actually just jumping straight in there onto Toucouille. He gets a whole chunk of damage onto him, but still a little bit too slow to contest this Herald. With Kamilius here in the area, that is going to be a Herald over to the side of Team GO. They'll be happy with the back of that one. See where they're going to use it, I guess, is the real question right now. Are they going to hold on for it for a bit to get some pressure, or are they just going to try and get some plates immediately?
One thing that's going to stop that a little bit is that Flakked actually just uses ult to cancel Jezu's base on the bot side of the map. Typically, you want to be throwing this gold into your AD carry in games like this, particularly when it starts to head towards even early to mid games, heading towards late game, AD carry start to take over. Because Jezu's off the map, means he can't defend this bot lane quite as easily. 10 seconds behind, it means he can't respond to his plays.
He's in danger. He's going to throw the ultimate down there. The polymorph's absolutely massive, but the lockdown will come through. Jezu slides in, pops the ultimate. Flakked's now joined in. Stopwatch comes down. They're going to be able to just about get him out of there in danger, but now it's going to be the end of Jezu. As Flakked, he's excited. He's on the chase. He's got the zap onto Kamilius, and down he goes. A double kill to Flakked. He pushes the wall. What a Chad! Toucouille goes down. Triple kill to Flakked.
Okay, all right. LPL AD carries in the EMEA, apparently. Flakked does not give a damn. Flashes into the base. But what a great way to start off this entire play. And it's just because of this ward in the bush right here. Kicks the play off. They know where Lyncas is going to be. Engage, change the seat. Great ultimate from Lyncas to actually keep himself alive for a lot longer. But after that ultimate comes in, it feels like a done deal. Jezu slices on the back.
You know what? I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel the creativity of Lost Heretics really coming to bring the bat. These are the reigning champions of EMEA Masters. And in a game like this, you can see what happens when they start to get their mojo on, start to get that groove going. Plays like this, so incredibly creative and incredibly explosive.
Also, marlon is just MVP, man. Did you see that gobble onto Zwyroo? I missed it in the heat of the moment. I didn't see where he went. He got gobbled up in the middle of that. Absolutely key player to this team. Herald has been charged up here in the top side, and we'll get that tower low. Won't finish it up. Obviously, the changes to Herald a little while ago. I mean, it's not quite as impactful at this point, but are able to at least get those plates in. Ragner, even though this is a countered matchup, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, yes. However, Ibo, the Aragon, sent a note over a little earlier to talk about one of the power spikes of this build. Of course, Aragon, notable top lane main himself. Once you get the Iron Spike Whip, you can kind of run in with like Q, E, and the Iron Spike Whip. Procs your phase rush means that you really get onto, you get to kind of keep your E very, very well on target. Marlon going towards the dark side though.
Yeah, I wonder if they're actually going to go for a dive in. I think it's just a bit of pressure. Maybe it is a dive straight up.
He pops the ultimate down. Flakked's taking tower shots. No, it's Marlon. He's able to find the kill, but that should just be enough to finish him. No, the W shield keeps him alive. And Toucouille does have that ultimate, so he can close the gap, but with Zwyroo there, can't do it.
Really nice recognition that they have the damage to do that. No summon spells on Jezu as well. Makes it a bit of a free pick. As bluerzor, is he going to walk in and smite it? Nope. Just smite come back up in time. But yeah, like you were saying, actually, I think you know, the Iron Spike Whip, great to actually proc the phase rush instantly, but just not necessarily getting the best side of the trade so far. Ragner has the Ravenous Hydra as well now, so he's got even more sustain to boot in the immediate future. But again, if you don't win out on the lane, even post 6, the point still stands. If you go in and you have like, let's say you've got 2.5k HP. If you drop to 1k, you die. Like that's it.
Yeah.
If Garen is there, he presses R key, and you have a massive sword drop on your head, and you get executed.
I love how we're talking about top lane as if there isn't a 5-0 jinx in this game. Flakked is just monstrously fed, and last game, he was the key person for this team. He got super fed on this jinx, and he carried it. This might just be a Bon Jonks angle to the
The name's Bon Jonks. Again, this is completely reusable, folks. But again, Flakked, I mean, just outside of that as well, incredible at this tournament. Got to remember the pedigree of this guy too. Won a title in G2 Esports last year. I'm sure many people have that in their minds, but that is the pedigree and the number of the results and titles he's bringing to his name. Yeah, now back in the ERLs, but seriously proving himself at another level.
He is 2 undertows, 3 undertows,
Good counting.
4 undertows. Won't quite get it.
Jamada's just flexing with everyone. He can count.
I can count, guys.
Damn.
That's the joke that orcs used to make to you when you, anytime you would get. Yes. You can't see it, guys. He's making the face.
You know, not only are we changing the eras in
bit.
EMEA Masters, we're changing the era on our caster decks.
Yes,
That was just a little bit of sadness. I miss him.
Don't we all?
I miss him so much.
Yeah, he's not dead, of course. He's just over it.
It's like sometimes it's almost like I can hear his voice on the LCK. Of course, it is worth noting as well, you know, we celebrate new and old players in the ERLs. Of course, we've got some new and old faces on the broadcast as well. Aragon, Janero joining us. For this one. I'm not saying anything about
No,
you,
no,
Mr. Oldie over there.
just say it. He's old. Speaking of old, Ibo
He's seen this
might
before.
be old news.
Yeah, he's too low. That execute ain't gonna work. They need to be lower. Jezu is coming in. Ivo, he had a lot of movement speed, but they're gonna give this kill to Jezu. They're gonna make sure he's able to pick it up. One more. Nope, the W shield. One more. There it is. Jezu finds himself the kill.
He's dead, deceased, gone to meet his maker, passed on to the other side, pining for the top lane, and he's not really having a great time in this matchup.
No, not so far. We'll see how much impact it can have.
I'm so sad.
So am I, because
I wanted this to work.
So did I. Now it's not necessarily done, because I really can't oversell this stuff, to be honest with you. The champion's really stupid sometimes, man. Like, we'll get like one example.
Yeah,
Where
we'll see.
well, now I've said it, sod's law, we won't. But he's going to hit level 11, the damage is going to get significantly higher, and then he's going to execute someone for like 800, 900 damage, and we're going to be like, wow, that's really
not
balanced.
fair. I have to say, I would love to see us get to like 3 items and see if that rapid fire cannon comes in, and just see what Jezu can do if he doesn't have a cleanse and he can't press Q because he's been silenced. That could actually be fairly impactful. Until then, though, really feels like Ibo is waiting for a couple of item breakpoints. Hasn't even hit his first mythic at this point. Really waiting on the rest of his team to make the most of this scenario. And in fairness, they are very far ahead.
Yeah. As
much as Ragner has an advantage on the top side, doesn't make it that much easier getting to this Jinx, which is stood behind a time catch.
That's actually the thing we have to wait for now. That's the next big thing in this game is can Ragnar.
He's got the W tenacity. He's just going to probably be able to clear through this wave relatively quickly. Is in danger though, because they just commit everything to him. He's weak side.
I wonder what Moose here thinks in this game right now. I would love to know. It does stop the base.
That stops the recess, and we've got a cross map coming in. It's a Herald cross map as well. You take down a turret, Flakked gets excited. You can't really stick around too brazenly here. It doesn't look like Heretics are going to overforce here, but again, inner turret gold goes to Flakked. Even more gold, 3,000 gold up on his counterpart.
If you're Ivo, you're all chatting worth. That's what that is. That's absolutely worth for him. It is the Stride Breaker build coming in from him, like you said, like you predicted, Jamada. Just, you know, the ability to stick when you got the phase rush plus then the slow as well. It becomes very hard. We also do see bluerzor finish up their mythic themselves, but Flakked building towards that Phantom Dancer once again as his second item. So
makes a lot of sense.
Yes, we explained it in the previous game, but you know the main key takeaways are it just gives him a lot more ability to kind of kite and play around the edge of the fight very
I'll be honest, the theory makes sense. I just prefer Runa just for the explosions. It's kind of a play-by-play brain moment to be honest. But I just feel like the moment, like you think to the other day, Mad Fnatic, Kazi flashing in, like 3-4 people getting hit by a rocket splash because of the Runans. Those are the kind of moments you can bring with the Iron, but still very much going to be powerful. The resets, first kill gonna still be important for Heretics, and when Flakked is putting in a lot of damage, it should be pretty easy to achieve. This is a nice collapse though.
This is a lovely collapse. Marlon can't save him. Marlon has to flash out They're keeping the pressure up onto Flakked. If he can avoid the charm, he should be A-OK. Is able to do so. Actually, he's able to do a whole lot of damage. The gobble comes in from Marlon. They throw him back, and now they're looking to get onto Flakked. They can't get the damage. The flash forward. Flakked's able to survive. He dodges out on the axe. Marlon has to go golden. Jezu flashes, pops the ultimate, and pops Flakked shut down in his pocket.
That is a huge overstep by particularly Flakked. He is the core of this game, the core of this team composition, and Mr. President hits the ground, can't get the damage off. Great punish by Team Geo. bluerzor completely called out by Ragner's flank.
Yeah, really good flank from Ragner. The ultimate from bluerzor doesn't really do much to disengage, and then Flakked, it's just this moment here where he starts actually returning fire. Like, you just don't have to, just retreat. As soon as that undertow lands, all right, sure, Marlon Gobble spends a lot of time to keep him alive, but Ragnar is getting all of the spell shields put on him. Barrier as well after the wild growth. It's just so much damage at this point in the game, and Heretics can't kill him through all of the additional utility.
Absolutely, just flawless fight there from Ragnar. That is what Olaf is built to do. Now, jump onto the backline and be a problem.
Imagine if Aibo was there, because that's when Olaf doesn't get to do that. So that's what the counter pick's for. Aibo's with the team, finally. So let's see if, you know, Team Geo get a little bit overconfident, look to try and force the issue again, but this time potentially get punished by that pick.
The thing with that last fight was that Ragnar got to get a side lane push and then join an unexpected angle. Aibo doesn't do that. He's running straight down the middle of the fight. It can be much harder for one, Aibo to survive, and two, for him to get onto the right people.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you're right. And it's not really like a tank Garen either. It's damage. But here's an engage into the choke.
Zwyroo actually pops the ultimate on himself. He's got a lot of damage onto Lyncas. Immediately gets himself in danger. The Damascene sword comes down, but Flakked has reset. He's got himself one. Now he's chasing for more. Unable to get it because everybody dashes away to safety, but this should just be Dragon over to Heretics.
Just an overstep from Team Geo into the choke. Ragnar again. We said, will he get confident? Yes, he does. Even though Aibo dies, he presses R key. How much health does he lose? Like 850 before he dies. So it's just ridiculous. And that gets Flakked his resets for him to actually step forward. And Heretics, emboldened by the Jinx getting the resets, makes a good team fight.
And just to show you how not close that was, look at the ult that was still available. That's a Devour, which was not used. It was not forced to be used at that point. Marlon had an extra huge shield to throw on someone that needed in that fight.
Yeah, honestly, it's just a really well called out fight. You can see that they knew exactly what they needed to do. We'll see it again here. Just, Aibo, yeah, so he goes down, but he did what he needed.
This is kind of like the line of scrimmage, right? You can't really go past this point if you're Geo without getting punished. They do it anyway, specifically Ragnar. But look at the damage after the charm comes in from Aibo. Like, from 1K to almost execute it. Guys, how do you play the game as Ragnar? Like, it's so impossible.
You play it in sepia. You play it in grey screen.
You really can't overstep. Basically at any point if Garen is nearby. Otherwise, you're looking to just give Jinx resets.
And also what we really saw there, I mean, we called this out in game 2. It feels like it's very similar here. Choke point's going to be really, really key with that Maokai ultimate and trying to run through them as well. What we saw there, Toucouille jump forward, couldn't really get that much done. If Team Geo managed to get themselves some angles, get Ragnar into the back without having to go through Aibo or Marlon, and the same with Toucouille as well. Things can look a lot more positive for them, but that's the state of the game right now. And actually, as it stands, Heretics are winning a game on red side currently.
Yeah, that is true. Gold, dragons, towers, everything favors them, even by 1 kill. Skin of their teeth. I will say, I feel like for Team Geo, they really... I think we've just seen how like the 5v5s can look and how quickly things can go south. They just need to force numbers advantage with I think. They just need to look for Heretics either in rotation or when they see somebody on a wave and they catch somebody out not actually near that wave, go and force the play of the Vi, I think, because if you try and run into them 5v5 again, I think you're going to run into the same issue we potentially just saw in that last Dragon fight.
One problem here. That's 80 carry items. That's quite a lot of damage. I don't see any armor over here. Thing is, if that Vi goes in, does force that fight, you gotta hit your target, you gotta hit your mark.
Everyone has
if you end up going in first, you're gonna die.
But how do you do that? How do you, as Vi, jump on Flakked? Because Marlon exists. Like we said, it cancels the vial. It's huge.
Whilst I think, obviously, getting Flakked is a big deal, I think as long as you can create a numbers advantage without actually expending too much beyond the vial, I think that's the important thing. The turning portion of a fight would definitely be difficult without it after that point, but I think if you can fight 5v4 basically, then you should be all right. But 5v5, I think they're going to continue to run into this issue that we've just seen now that Flakked continues to get stronger, and Aibo is probably just going to look to be his personal bodyguard. Heretics now on this Baron because they know they can do it.
Toucouille has the teleport, see if he joins the fight. Vision control established by Heretics. Let's see how they choose their terrain.
Oh, Ivo's coming in on the flank. There's going to be the teleport coming out. Massive ultimate coming in from bluerzor. They're able to pick that one up for free, but they're going to throw everything down. Marlon just gobbles up Flakked immediately, able to spin him out. A lot of damage coming in, though. There's going to be that massive Garanol to just zone Ragner out of the fight, and Flakked, he's alive! He's got the damage to work with, and he's able to take it. A double kill over to bluerzor. The rocket goes a little bit wide, but Ragner's being run down, and Ivo, he wants revenge for the earlier game. The snipe from bluerzor for the disrespect, the triple kill over to him. Baron in the pocket. This is probably just be a cracked open base.
bluerzor gets the kill credits, but Flakked was doing the heavy lifting, man. He was just the spotter, claiming all of the deadlifts, and I mean, man, it's just so difficult for Team Geo to do anything, and then just a generally good call from Heretics, recognizing that Geo in a bad position. Engage comes in, Marlon uses the ultimate, great wild growth knocker, but Ragnar a little bit hesitant, and again, knocked down to like 1 HP, and nothing can happen as the reset starts to come back
Also, a bit of a lack of coordination between Vi, the Olaf, and the Ahri to get on the same targets at the same time.
Exactly.
There's only one Devour, then you can't defend everyone, and you can't manage to defend against every kind of engage. They don't manage to get that time. Heretics, great chance for them, great opportunity to take away their angles.
Oh, they got the teleport. They're feeling it. Toucouille's actually used the Spirit Rush as well there, so he just has to get out. Lyncas is out. Zwyroo, he's happy.
Starting to feel a little bit desperate from Team Geo, and you know what? If you're an LFL fan, your last team in the tournament in an awkward Game 3, set to go 2-1 down in this series to the team which knocked out your region and ended your dynasty last summer. Yeah, we're throwing out all of those storylines right now because it's seeming a little bit eerie in this quarterfinals.
Oh, that it is. And it's, of course, final Spanish team too. Movistar didn't quite cross the finish line yesterday against UOL, so a lot of regional pride here for both of these sides. Top lane inhibitor tower goes down, base open now. Heretics. They're just a little bit split off, but you can always just prop the R from long range, provide a little bit of over support, but I think they just want this dragon spawning 20 seconds. It's the soul. I think because of the timer of the resets though, Geo might actually slip into the river in time.
Got the Hex Gates. That does help. Baron and those Hex Gates means that Heretics, they might give up first entry into the river, but they are going to be there for the objective more than in time.
Yeah. Say that, but Ivo's just going to jump immediately onto Lyncas. Look at the damage. He forces the shield from Kamilius as well.
Yeah, that was through the shield of Kamilius. Now, Heretics still make it into the river in time, and Geo don't really have some kind of, you know, cool, quirky flank angle to work with. Toucouille's actually going all the way back round, so as I say it, now they finally do, but Heretics, they're starting up the dragon, it's down to 8k, and Geo need to pick their target, and need to pick it soon.
See if they're going to be able to get over to this wall. They're not working with complete vision, they have no idea.
Zwyroo.
They're coming in, Zwyroo gets the damage down, and Toucouille, he's out of it. He's just popped immediately. Dragon secured. Hextech Soul onto Los Heretics.
No cleanse, no help of a snowball's chance in hell. Mid laner from Team Geo had an awesome first game of this series, but in this third one, Heretics have had more than the answer to him.
Yes, they have. It's been so difficult for Geo to deal with, and Heretics marching onto the base of Geo because they know they can. All 5 members. 1 on the bottom side, that is. 4 here in the mid lane. They'll get the mid lane inhibitor pretty much for free. Geo can't do much about that. We'll see where they want to go, whether it's bot towards Zwyroo. It seems to be the case. And this game feels like a bit of a done and dusted one at this point, unless Geo can pull a miracle out of the hat.
It's going to have to be a bloody miracle for them to be able to hold on to this one. Inhibitor in that bot lane going very, very low. They've got a wave to work with as well. They do have everybody up, no Baron, so it's a little hard to make this push happen. There should be enough wave clear just to clip through this wave and deal with this one. But Ivo escorting that mid lane wave in as well. And Heretics, they just turn their attention towards that top lane inhibitor. They want to pick this one up as Lyncas does jump forward, gets a little bit off as they do lock down one with the roots. But oh my word, that damage is absolutely huge. Ivo able to secure the kill there with the Demacia. Finds a shutdown and a 1-for-1 trade, but it's not done. Ivo's coming alive with a double kill. That's going to be one of the Flakked. He's got the resets. He's got the team to work with and the health bar. Jezu needs to have a big moment here, but he's unable to pop off as Marlon finds the gobble. Kamilius is low. Kamilius is dumped and the ace is there. Los Heretics come back in game number 3, pushing it to match point.
Signing off kill for Flakked onto Kamilius. They'll go up 2-1 from the red side, no less. And they will take it to series point, potentially to knock out another LFL team, and potentially looking to make it to the semi-finals to try and keep the back-to-back.
Can't believe it. It worked. It worked. The code has been cracked. The red side draft, which we were worried about, has now had an answer from Heretics. So this Team Geo, need to take a step back, go back to the drawing board, think what went wrong in that game, particularly from that draft. Was it something about that top lane matchup that they couldn't really leverage? Was it something about this Jinx? Maybe it has to be that removing that champion from the table next.
There is actually a lot to think on here, because the bot side matchup was pretty unamusable. The top side matchup was fine until you realized, oh, Garen's in the game, so we don't get to use this champion. I think it was just generally such a strong curveball pick on R5 that if they could use the Olaf, fantastic. But generally, as soon as you start looking at 5v5s, it gets really difficult, and I think the only options you really had were force plays with Vi, with Lissandra, but you know, you've always got to worry about Tahm Kench. I just think all the answers were there for the side of Heretics, and it really muted Team Geo's ability to ever actually look for proactive plays on a consistent basis back-to-back.
I have to say, this is one of my favorite things about best of fives, particularly with teams which have a bit of shared history. A lot of players in the ERLs have played on same teams. The coaches as well have had histories as well. They know each other's thought processes to some degree. You know what's happening on the Rift and what's important to them as well. We're seeing the next level and the next level. Heretics lost that first game, but they're really starting to find their stride, just as they did in their last tournament, which they went away winning.
I think it's the flexibility as well. It's having these things like the Garen in pocket. I'm amazed, you know, how like obviously Kennen was banned in this game, but the game before Kennen just was completely ignored as well. I feel like it's going to be one that they're going to be playing towards. Ragner, they need to get him back on something like that. I mean, to be fair, he suited the Olaf. It suits his play style. It's something we do see from him. But I don't know, it wasn't enough. We are now on match point. We're going to throw it over to the analyst desk to break that game 3 down, and then we'll be back for game number 4.
Heretics find an answer to a concerning first game that we've seen from them. They're now in the lead. They're on match point. They're in the driver's seat and they're chilling.
Yeah, I just think it was an incredible game, right? They really unlocked Flakked this draft. I think Flakked, on top of playing amazing, they realized, you know, Flakked's our carry. We're going to do absolutely everything we can in draft. Tahm Kench peeling. We have Lissandra to create space. Lissandra can create up to like 7 seconds of space with her ulti and then stopwatch, letting Jinx get to be at that point where she's stacked lethal tempo and she gets excited. You also have no targets for the enemy mid-jungle to burst. Garen W stops him dying. You have Tahm Kench ult to eat anyone that gets engaged on, and your best target becomes a Maokai to one-shot.
Yeah, which feels like a bit of a deviation of what we were expecting from them to play through that top lane. It's now rotated and become the Flakked show.
Yeah, and actually, I'm really surprised that when the top lane start going south, they played through Flakked. They did not move Flakked across the map to help that top lane. They dived top lane, they completely dismantled Jezu, and they put all of their kills on that Jinx. I was actually a big advocate of that Olaf in the top lane. I'm like, that works great. I feel like if they play through that Olaf and they shut down the Garen and they get Olaf ahead from that laning phase, that Jinx, Tahm Kench or not, she's just gonna melt away. Like, he's gonna kill the Tahm Kench first, and then he's gonna move on to the Jinx. But that Olaf comes out of laning phase with Jaxo and Hydra, and Jinx has 5 kills and already 2 items. So it's just really difficult to play the front to back when you're not necessarily coming out of lane. Well, yeah, you're coming out of lane ahead as an Olaf, but that AD carry has already snowballed.
Yeah, and when we're looking at the Garen as well, so magnetic in terms of pulling the pressure from the rest of the map onto themselves, having the ignite as well.
You call it bullying?
Yeah.
Cyberbullying, maybe, but we don't really do that here. They had the ignites, and it's Garen, okay? Like, I don't want to say what was deserved, but like, why the Garen?
Well, it's a really good answer to Olaf because Olaf thrives on being low HP. He gets a bunch of stats, and you obviously executes. It's a really sleeper counter, at the very least in solo queue as well. The problem with combat summoners and not TP in competitive is that you don't have a teleport to bail yourself out of a bad death, right? What happens a lot is you'll die and you can TP back and catch the wave still, but when you do not have that teleport to back get you back into the lane, you die and you just miss a ton. And that's what they kept trying to capitalize on. Geo tried to continuously gank top lane, deny waves, and it worked. At one point, I believe Ragner had a 30 CS lead at like 9 minutes against the Garen. Unfortunately, just could not convert.
Yeah, they couldn't convert it, but it's also the draft that's played quite a big role, once again, into how this game played out. I know we want to touch upon that a little bit further, but looking at the goal draft difference, starting off with that, it felt like, again, at the beginning, Team Geo was a little bit in the driver's seat, but Heretics, as you know, Jamada said it himself, they just found an answer to every single one of their issues.
Honestly, I love the fact that they played through Ragnar again. We saw Lulu roaming towards the top side. Vi and Ari were constant towards that top side. They drew that Lissandra TP very early on. Not having that reply again from the Lissandra costed Garen his life 2 minutes later when they tried to re-dive that Garen. Again, unfortunately, I feel like the bot side has not impressed me so far from Team Geo. I feel like they haven't been as stable.
Okay.
Jezu has not performing to his expectations. We've seen him carry games single-handedly. I just wish we would see that, you know, when you're playing towards one side of the map, the other side of the map has to respect, and it just wasn't the case from Geo.
When we're looking at the bot lane from Geo, then, however, in that case, as you're mentioning, they haven't impressed you. Would you rather that be due to the individual performances coming through today, or the fact that they're not being played through, they're not getting the resources that potentially, when we're looking at Flakked, is receiving?
I feel like it's individual performances so far. I feel like even in the wins, Jezu on the Sivir was overextended a little bit. He got caught in a few places. Then they're not necessarily respecting the fact that their team is playing through the top side of the map. The rotations are a little bit slow. We saw Team Herald fights that went south just because the call was, you know, half and half. The team had half rotated, but they still wanted to fight, but they were already in. So it has to be like communication issues, but I think there's a lot of underperformance in the way.
Yeah, and I do think that whilst that's also true, I do think Flakked was set up for success way better here. If you saw the draft early on, you could see that Team Geo was developing a composition to kill first target just with this Vi and the Ahri. But the second that Team Heretics with a really good draft pull out stuff like the Tahm Kench, the Lissandra, which starts to make that dive composition seem a bit, you know, undoable, they pivot. They pivot into a kind of peel composition with like a pseudo frontline with a Vi, and the composition then starts feeling all over the place. You have half dive with the Vi and the Ahri, and then you also have a Lulu Zwyroo who kind of wants to kite backwards, and you just want to do two different things. So I definitely do think that Team Heretics' draft was way more on theme.
Okay, the theme this being want to play through that bot lane, which is actually quite an interesting point as well, because when we're looking at Ragner and how they've been performing in the top side of things, that's still something that they're very comfortable with. And it seems that just the interaction of the draft so far, Aragon, has not really played in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult, right? I think they had a bit of an oversight with the Tahm Kench and second rotation ban rather than the Jax. Even though Jax is good into Olaf, I think it can be a bit of an early skill matchup. You know, it is still a counter, don't get me wrong. But I would much rather have seen the Tahm Kench as a peel option, because when you include the Tahm Kench on top of the Lissandra, who you can already not ulti, and you're so dependent on killing a target, it breaks the camel's back, right? It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. You can no longer kill anyone with this Vi Ahri, and that's problematic.
I feel like when it comes to drafts as well, we've seen Jinx and Zeri so far up and available. You know, the Zaya has been banned away. We saw one Sivir as well.
Yeah.
I feel like Flakked is so damn good at team fighting. Maybe take away all these heavy hyper carries like the Jinx. You know, there's still the Aphelios. Take the Aphelios away, possibly on second rotation. Put him on something that he can't necessarily hyper carry, and that one, he will either need the attention, or two, he'll fall back to something that is less of a problem than Jinx is right now. Because once you see that one takedown on Jinx, she just takes over the entire fight. And again, I just want to reiterate how good Flakked is at these team fights, how good they set him up for these team fights. But I also think this is the opening spot for Geo to hit in the early game, because Heretics do draft heavily around these team fights and how to protect him and go around him, that they do leave openings for side lane pressure, as we saw.
It does bring the question, however, do you want to prioritize taking the hyper carries off of the plate, or do you want to take off the Jace, the Annie, which is something that they've also been prioritizing in terms of getting those bans through?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly difficult, right? Because they just play everything. But they have shown that they definitely do prefer the Zeri and the Jinx. Throughout groups, Flakked was only playing Zeri. Like, pretty much only playing Zeri and playing cleanup duty. What if you decide to take away this? Yeah, what if you decide to take away that theme of champion? What do they pull out then? Do they start pulling out, you know, the Varus, and then maybe they aren't as good on it? You know, maybe give them a different, you know, a fresher breath air.
You know, fresh of breath air is very much needed from the side of Team Geo if they want to push this to that fifth game. Heretics, they're sitting on the lead, and it's match points for them. So whether or not Geo got what it takes to be able to take down the reigning champions of EU Masters Summer 2022, find out after the break.